Hey everyone, I'm just going to be going over some of my Gen 7 OU replays from the recent Smogon Tour, and I'm just going to be talking about the replays as they play in the background. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy a little bit of post commentary and watching my games from last weekend. Alright, so for round one, I face this really threatening rain team, and I'm using a sand team. He has a lot of threats to me. So let's get into it and see how it went. So he leads off with Magirna. I'm leading Pex because I know he doesn't have Manaphy, and T-Spikes are going to be really, really valuable versus like the Swampert and the Kingdra. I go into my Keldeo, which is one of my only water resists, to immediately try to pressure him with Scald. That is Assault Vest. I think he might do something other than Volt Switch, so I try clicking Sub just in case he lowers his attack or special attack with Flare Cannon. And now my Keldeo, as I Calm Mind, is in position to do considerable damage, but he switches right back from the Thundurus into the Magirna. So I'm not going to stay in because I want to keep my Keldeo around, and this is an opportunity to go into Excadrill and set rocks, which hazards are going to be a huge part of my game plan in this game. I go back into Keldeo because I wanted to pressure him more, basically, and I thought he might U-turn out, and it turns out that is exactly what he ended up doing. And now I have a Secret Sword, can 2-hit KO that Magirna, but he's just going to Volt Switch out and go into Volcanion, which is another serious threat to my team. I throw in my Toxapex, and wow, that is a Specs Steam Eruption in the rain. That's not fun to take even for a Toxapex, and I kind of just have to spam recovers, and at any moment he can go into a super threat like Thundurus. But he actually just goes into Swampert, and I can eat an EQ, except I get crit. Absolute disaster for me, because I can't set T-Spikes anymore. Absolute disaster, but I just gotta try to keep playing the best I can. I get a U-turn as he switches into Pelipper, and I get in my Tyranitar, which is pretty big. Tyranitar is very useful, obviously, in the weather at matchup. Go for a Stone Edge just in case he stays in. Swampert comes right back out. I've got Rocky Helmet Tornadus, which is useful for chipping him down, and also he doesn't have too great Hurricane resists, even though his one resist is Thundurus, and Thundurus can pretty easily come in on my Tornadus. But I anticipate that and click U-turn, and I go into Keldeo, which is really my only thing that can threaten that Thundurus. He goes for a Thunder, and I'm really at the mercy of this thing now. I try to anticipate the Focus Blast and get the Exca back in on the Thunder after, but he just nasty plots and I get my Exca in anyway. And crucial turn, instead of switching out or going to Pelipper or something, he lets the Thundurus faint, despite the fact that it was extremely obvious that I had something that could KO him there. And now I'm just going to get rocks up there. That was a super threat, so I think it was a bit of a misplay for him to let that Mon go down there. Although it might not have had Focus Blast, it could have been Bolt Beam coverage. It was a very serious threat to my team. Now I can go into Jolly Mega T-Tar, crucially, so even if he's max Timid Volcanion, I can outspeed him. Swampert comes back in, and I just gotta go Tornadus and start chipping him down with Hurricanes and Rocky Helmets. He goes for a Stealth Rock again, which I suppose he thought I would defog. A bit of a curious play because I don't think that it wouldn't really have made any progress for him. But now I'm free to, with Peli fainted, I can just go into Tyranitar on the Kingdra. I've officially won the Weather War, and that's a Specs Kingdra, so I'm going to be able to set up Calm Minds in the face of that Mon. And I'm going to get a bunch of chip on it with Secret Sword. And between Tornadus U-turns and Celesteela clicking Leech Seed on this weakened Swampert, this game is going to be mine. So despite the fact that my T-Spikes Mon got crit and KO'd from a hit that it guaranteed would have lived, and that he had a bunch of threats, I was able to KO his Thunderous with the Z Excadrill and then set up Rocks, and I feel like that was kind of the beginning of the end for him. So that just goes to show, even if you get some terrible luck, you should at least try to see what you can get and play to your outs. So yeah, that's game 1 of Smogon Tour. So let's go to game 2. And I'm facing another interesting team. Another rain team with a Thunderous, which is always terrifying. But once again without a Manaphy, which means my Toxic Olo and Wisp Sableye are going to be good into this team. So Pelipper leads. I wasn't sure if that was what he would lead, but it was good regardless, because I can just get a free Will-O-Wisp on something, and hitting Thunderous is very, very good. I can go into Magearna because he could go for like a Focus Blast or something. This is a Scarf Magearna, by the way. He seems to anticipate that and go into Ferrothorn. And I kind of think he will go into like Greninja or something to exploit the Sableye switch, so that's why I didn't go straight into it. And he reveals that he's actually Toxic Swampert to break through Alomomola, which is a really cool tech. But I'm able to Toxic his Pelipper, which is going to be pretty big in this game. I think, yeah, here I just go for Wish so I can easily go. I can threaten the Magearna basically, or the Drill, and kind of that just gave me a lot of flexibility with that turn. So Greninja comes in, and I cautiously go into Dragonite, and that's not Specs damage. I don't think that's a boosted Surf at all, which is very, very strange for a Rain team. And it makes me think, well, his Greninja could be Z, but also I feel like a lot of Mimikyus tend to be Z. So he switches in that to a knockoff, and Thunderous gets KO'd. Very big threat gone. And here I go into my designated Mimikyu check, which guaranteed lives any Z move it can throw out and hits back with a Toxic. Now, Excadrill's Mold Breaker actually goes through Disguise, which is really big there. And my opponent seemingly did not realize that. So he makes another good play, tossing my Zapdos, and this is actually an HP Grass offensive Zapdos with HP Grass and U-turn. And it's a Ferrothorn, so Sableye is pretty free, and that Greninja can't seem to do much damage to my Sableye unless it well, it's not even going to use Z. It already confirmed Z. So my Sableye is just in a really good position here. And he reveals Choice Scarf Pelipper, which is interesting. I thought he might Roost there. Maybe in hindsight, it was better to just click Recover and always be safe rather than clicking the knockoff. But I thought he might go into Gren, and I guess I wanted to know what item he was. I don't know. I probably should have clicked Recover there. So I'm just pivoting around Swampert a little bit. And Rain ends on that turn very conveniently, so I get a Fleur Cannon off and chip that Pert severely. Yeah, there you can see the HP Grass doing nothing to Ferrothorn. There I think he might make a double, so I get a bunch of chip with my U-turn. And he's Leftovers Greninja. Like, what is that? Like, why would you run Leftovers Greninja on a Rain team? I don't understand it. But he doesn't have Ice Beam, and that's what matters. So Sableye is going to come in on Ferrothorn, and basically Sableye is just going to auto-win this game. Yeah, there's some Will-O-Wisp stuff happening, some knockoffs, and Zapdos finishes off the Swampert. Cool. On to round 3, and I'm facing a very strong player, Storm Zone. You've probably heard of him before. You've probably seen him play in tournaments, if not multiple times, and we're both bringing pretty cool offense teams. So Coco into T-Tar. This is a screens U-turn Coco, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Get up both my screens, and then U-turn into Lando, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Ice Punch does not do much. That Ice Punch did 20 because I'm Yachi Berry, and I'm able to get a defog off, and I can set my own Stealth Rocks now, except critical hit Kartana, another disastrous crit in this Smogon Tour. But I'm still in an okay enough position to Z-celebrate with my Victini. And this is going to be able to do a bunch of damage to his team, because it has Focus Blast, as you will see on this turn. Though it misses, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to go to T-Tar again because he wants to save it and sack the Feeny, so I managed to KO the Sand Setter on that turn, which is very beneficial. He goes into Drill and goes for the Z move, but it's Z Stone Edge, so that leaves me at just enough HP to go for the Focus Blast and KO his Excadrill for a double down. Going into Coco confirms he is a Choice Scarf Lele. That was a crit that only did 29 to Magearna there. And that Kartana is going to get me my Berry and a special attack boost. This kind of requires that he goes into Charizard, and he can't really set up because a +1 Magearna is way too dangerous into a setting up Zard X. So I taunt him there, goes for the Dragon Dance. I'm expecting Zard X. Zard Y isn't really as much of a threat to my team, but with my Zard, I have a decent chance to live 2 Psychics, and if I manage to live 2 Psychics, I can sweep his team. However, I elect not to do that because my Superior can always live a hit from this Scarf Lele, and go for Leaf Storm into HP Rock, which should be enough to win the game. Earthquake KO'd most Feenies there, but he was defensive. And HP Rock Superior is just going to come in and win. But there's one more twist. He's Dragon Dance Zard Y, which is a funny set that you might see from time to time. Alright, into round 4, and I'm playing Electrone, who's a friend of mine and a very dedicated Gen 7 player. And I'm bringing a bulky team, which isn't the type of thing I'd usually bring, because I thought Toxic Spikes might be great into him. So I am just immediately going to set those up. He goes for Explosion. I kind of thought something like that might be coming due to the nature of his team, and Garchomp and Feeny are already going to get poisoned. So Clefable here can pretty effectively trade with Garchomp, because it can take any Z move other than like Ground Z, and yeah, it's just going to be a trade with the poison. Went for a Stone Edge there. If that missed, I clicked Soft Boiled, but no big deal. Tapu Fini comes in, I go into Drill, that Fini takes the T-Spike first, and my Drill is fairly fast, so that could be a Scarfini, and crucial turn, he actually tries to trick my Z and Magearna. So I start setting up Calm Minds. It turns out he's a Calm Mind Magearna as well, and we're stuck in a Magearna Calm Mind war, in which basically we're both going to attack each other, and the person that crits is going to be at a severe advantage in this game. Now, I think this isn't the worst situation for me, because even if I get a little bit of chip on him, then my Excadrill will be able to Revenge Kill. And it's not too often you see Shift Gear and Calm Mind, so it's like, alright, it's fine, I get a pair that's even better for me, and then I get a crit. Maximum luck moment. Maximum luck for me, and I think he even said that that was a Shucka Berry Magearna, so truly that was lucky. There's no denying it. And Excadrill comes out to punish Bisharp, and I have another kind of lucky moment. I crit his Shucka Berry Bisharp. Now, this Sucker Punch has less than a 50% chance to KO, so it wasn't too unlucky in that situation. He still needed it to be favorable for him, but yeah, that crit allowed me so that even if the Sucker Punch would have KO'd, I would have been able to go into Pex and KO that Bisharp with Scald. So, fortunate game for me. Alright, and for the next one, I'm bringing one of my favorite Hyper Offense teams against Ives Stone, and I have a Subswarm Volcarona against a Heatran, which could have Roar, and a Pinsir, which has Quick Attack to Revenge KO, plus several Volcarona exploitable Mons. So I lead Mew, and he automatically reveals himself to be Scarf Bulu, which is an interesting set. It also means I can kind of go into Superior. And, well, I took a lot of damage, but I can threaten him back with a Glare. See, I thought he would switch it back out into, like, Zapdos or something, and I make a bit of an over-prediction there. I go into Garchomp and get this Mon very, very weakened. But I still have my Superior to partially deal with this Kartana, and I'm able to get a Glare off, and he stays in on the Serp, not fearing HP Fire or anything, which is, I would say, a fairly reasonable play. I think Glare or maybe even Leaf Storm made more sense there, but I am Fire Fang Garchomp, so he stays in. He doesn't want to save a paralyzed Kartana, perfectly reasonable, and I get a lot of chip on that Pinsir from Stealth Rocks and Return. So this is where things get a little interesting, because if I don't get static by Zapdos, I'll be in a pretty good spot. I'm just gonna easily KO that Gastrodon. And because his Zapdos actually can't KO me, he needs, like, I think Discharge and Rocky Helmet, but he's only the Helmet, but he gets the static para, so this makes Pinsir a threat, but he doesn't risk the SD because he would lose on the spot if that happened. And I go into my Magearna, which is going to be able to Thunderbolt. That was a bit of a prediction, because if he went Heatran on that, then he would have gotten a kill with Heatran, and Pinsir would have been a very big threat. But because he stayed in close combat, used close combat, I can taunt the Heatran, which prevents it from setting up Stealth Rocks. I can click Thunder Wave, and basically set up the perfect Subswarm Volk win scenario. So yeah, Subswarm Volk is going to win even versus a team with Roar Heatran and Quick Attack Pinsir. Okay, so now I'm in semifinals, and I'm facing Quilly, who's another well-known Gen 7 OU player, and I decide to use Rain, which is one of my absolute favorite playstyles in this generation, and I get a pretty good matchup. Manaphy can be very good, and Power Punch Swampert can also be very good. So I just lead Pelipper. He goes for the Frustration, U-turn, and it's a Greninja entry because I calc that is an Adamant Lopunny, and my Greninja can outspeed it. Very crucial. I thought he might make a super risky play and stay in, and if he goes Pex, I can just go Manaphy, so losing a bit of momentum with Surf there isn't the worst thing. I check, I guess, to make sure he has Haze, but now I'm kind of in this situation where I have to chip him down with Psychic, and I have to, if Tail Glow on the turn, he recovers in order to make meaningful progress. But I instead just come away with a little bit of chip on his Magnezone, and he gets a little bit of chip on my Swampert. So because I only have one turn of Rain left, I'm not going to try to go in with Swampert yet because I need that Rain boost. I click Leech Seed on the Skarm because I can actually do a ton of damage to Magnezone with Leech Seed and Power Whip if it is Scarf Zone, which based on that damage he is. And even more so, I have the Berry and Power Whips, but I missed that Power Whip. But it's okay, I can still get chip on him. Oh, I missed another Power Whip. I was quite disappointed when that happened because Magnezone is one of the mons that can actually outspeed and revenge KO my Manaphy. So because of that, I'm a little more confident to click Spikes, and because of how obvious the Surf play is, I can click Spike and that's going to help me wear down the Toxapex and that Lopunny, because Lopunny with its Fake Outs and Quick Attacks can be a pretty big threat to Rain in this endgame. So I roost a bit to just get Pelipper healthy. I wanted it to be able to come in on Stealth Rocks 2 more times, or no. I wanted it to be able to knock the Pex and then... Do I U-turn here? No, I roosted because I needed to come in on Stealth Rocks at least 1 more time. So the plan was to knock the Pex to make it easier for Manaphy. And yeah, now Tornadus Eject Button, another tech I love on this team. And I think I just go for the Waterfall here, yeah, because that's a safe 2-hit KO into Skarmory. Lopunny comes out again. Lopunny's getting chipped by Spikes, and it's time to say goodbye to Pelipper and to just go into Pert again because it has max rain turns and no more Rocky Helmets. KO's Gliscor easily with Waterfall. Now Lopunny comes out again, and I can actually feint to Fake Out into Quick Attack, so I sacrifice my Tornadus and go back into Swampert because I do not want to take that Fake Out turn. I Power Up Punch because I thought he might sack the zone, and it would allow me to 2-hit KO Cress in this scenario, so I think Power Up Punch was just ideal there. Except he can go back into Lopunny and he still has that Pex and Zone, so I make a bit of a risky play. I go back into Greninja because I can threaten with the Shuriken and KO that Lopunny, and basically now my Swampert Manaphy Greninja combo is guaranteed to win. So even though it would have been bad if he attacked me there and had Quick Attack, I feel like it was a play I needed to make. And honestly, I think Manaphy might have had a chance to live a high jump kick. I'm not sure. I have a bit of bulk on this Manaphy. So yeah, Flash Cannon comes out there, and yeah, that game is over. So I'm in a 3-way finals, and I have to face Sentu, who is this player, and Always, who's another good player and a friend of mine. So let's do the Sentu game first. Lando into Lando. His Lando outspeeds mine. I get the HP Ice off, which is good for my Zard. And here, I don't know how I felt about that. I don't think I should have clicked Rocks there. I should have clicked Defog, because having Rocks up benefits his team a lot more than it benefits mine. It could have seemed like Rocks were good in the early game when I clicked that, but I think later on in the game, you'll be able to see that rocks were in fact more beneficial to his side. So I thought he might be Explosion Landorus, which is why I actually clicked rocks there, because if he was the only one with rocks, then that would have been disastrous. But I thought that might be a setup Z Magearna and like Life Orb Mimikyu or something. Second Mimikyu I've fought in this tour, by the way, which is interesting. And he gets, as I go into my Victini, he gets a crucial Volt Switch off, which I had U-turn only as my only attack on Coco. So I kind of felt like I needed to click it there. Maybe I could have stalled an extra turn, but I think it's fine because with Reflect Up, I was eating hits from that anyway. Goes back into Lopunny, except now I have a Reflect and a defense boost. So I'm going to be able to click Stored Power again. That KOs the Landorus. That makes my Zard X more of a threat. I'm guaranteed to live at least one Shadow Sneak from an unboosted Mimikyu, so that's why he's going to set up a Swords Dance. But this essentially requires me to sacrifice my own Zard, so it basically comes down to Lopunny versus the rest of my team, and with his Magearna and Rotom. And Lopunny is going to be able to do a ton of damage. I don't have Glare on my Superior. I kind of tried to bluff having Glare, like being Scarf Glare there, but it didn't work. And yeah, I'm basically just going to lose the endgame to this Lopunny. Maybe I could have gone Magearna first, but he still ultimately would have chipped me down. I don't have the berry or anything. But maybe I could have like forced it down to a high jump kick in that end game. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to lose that finals. But if Always beats Santu and I beat Always, it'll be a 3-way tie. So I can at least go for that. So this is my game against Always, and I'm using this bulky team again. After this game, Electrone told me, was basically talking about how this team is terrible. And, well, yeah, it's not the most consistent. I just thought, I was looking at the teams Always tends to bring, and I thought, well, T-Spikes look good. But Gyarados is a major threat to this team. I practically just lose to it. And Subseed Serp is also a major threat, so you'll just see how it goes. As always, I'm prioritizing my T-Spikes, which is quite a common theme in this series of games that I'm showing you today, except I'm double poisoned, so I poison that Landorus. And this is his only defogger, so my goal is to basically get T-Spikes permanently up. He switches out there, but he goes into Coco. I'm not sure exactly what set this is. Coco is a pretty customizable Mon, but I did see in his scout that it was Nature's Madness, so I was pretty sure it wasn't Specs, and he wasn't going to click it on an Excadrill, but he gets me on the Nature's Madness. I didn't want to take another Nature's Madness here, or just have him go Lando and Defog again as I click Stealth Rock, so that's why I got in Pex there, and I get that ideal scenario where the Lando's KO'd and the T-Spikes are up. So honestly, this is just about as ideal this game could be going for me. Clef is sent in to deal with the T-Tar. Now, on this turn, I kind of hope he doesn't have Crunch, because my Slowbro has Protect. And I kind of need to go in and click Protect with Slowbro in order to get the chip that I need to KO this T-Tar with Toxic. So that's pretty much exactly what happens. We've traded, it's 5-4, so I'm doing all right, and Serp is poisoned, but I'm like, okay, it can be sub-seed. Even if he gets up a substitute, he can still click leech seed and gain a bunch of HP back. So, goes for a sub there. I think I didn't want to let my Latias get all chipped because it's one of the few things that can actually stand up to Gyarados with Thunder or Thunderbolt. Even though that's not the best option, it is an option. But after that Fleur Cannon miss with the Magearna, and that allowed him to get up a sub, and he's just going to basically be able to Leaf Storm through my whole team. So sometimes in Gen 7, if you use these types of bulky teams, even if you get like a really good early game, you can just get absolutely crushed by one of the tier's sweepers. And that's what happened here. So basically it's just going to be Leaf Storm, and I do not have enough Pokemon to win. Gyarados is just going to beat me. And after this game, Always beat Santu. So Always won the tournament. Congrats to him. But I think I made a pretty good run all the way up to finals, and I just wanted to share these games with you. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.